What's up, Conquerors? We are going to do an Age of Empires 4 coaching session today to help one of our Mongol friends in his English matchup. So, as someone who likes playing Mongol a lot in solo, these are always fun games for me to review. So, he has played a bunch of games this season, 371 games. This looks like the first season you've played ranked, so I don't know when you bought the game, but you're pretty new to ranked, even though you've got a ton of games in. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're still learning, so just take everything with a grain of salt that I suggest in the video. Again, this is not a... this is more of a broad strokes, hey, these are some things that you need to work on and a couple small things. And we're going to take a look at a Mongol versus English matchup, which can be tough to deal with it sometimes for the Mongol. So one thing, we're going to be looking at our red player here. We know in this matchup that you can't Dark Age rush because English villagers have short bows, so anything that you Dark Age rush with, they're going to shoot to death. So, a couple of key things we want to do at the beginning when we start with Mongol is we want to identify where we need to place our town center, which is going to be on the wood line. If the wood line has stone or gold near it, great. If it doesn't, whatever, you can figure that out later. Interestingly enough, you actually are a little out of vision of your gold and stone. But you want to place the TC like you did. Take all your villagers, click on this wood to begin gathering it. Take one of the villagers, go build your Ovoo, and then send the scan out, send the con out for sheep. So I know you start chopping this tree, it's just easier to have your villagers go by the TC and chop it. The gur can actually be used to walk around your base, and if you see any straggler sheep, you can place the gur down and the sheep will be captured by it, so that's a good use for the gur early. We immediately want to take our 6th villager to the Ovoo after, basically as soon as you can, but he doesn't really need to get a chop in there. So, I have just sped through this game before this matchup, so if we're playing against English, this guy, he ends up Dark Age rushing us, which was quite interesting. I didn't expect that, but he's going to come out here and try to burn the Ovoo. Against English, since you are not Dark Age rushing, you want to get to feudal quickly, so you just want to gather food and gold here and get up to feudal. And I think his Dark Age rush throws you off a little bit because you throw down a stable and make a Dark Age horseman. So, what I would suggest here is get your food and gold and start going up to feudal. You can gather wood while you're aging up to build a stable. And one just thing to consider when you're playing Mongol is based on the time it takes to place the town center, you're always a villager behind, so it's 10 to 11 right now. So that means the idle time on your town center, which we see a good bit of in Dark Age because you're busy scouting, it adds up over time to where you're behind 2 or 3 villagers just because you haven't been queuing them up. So, it's always just a second here or there. Sometimes 5 seconds, but that adds up to a lot over the course of time. I'll let the video keep going. In this particular situation, he's gonna burn your Ovoo. Dark Age Horsemen can't kill Dark Age Men-at-Arms effectively. So I would have suggested not building this Horseman, getting up to feudal, and then you building a Keshik and cleaning these guys up. So, no, there's really no need to build a horseman here. He can't kill the men-at-arms, and the English villagers can just shoot him to death. So, I would have liked to have seen you just go to feudal and make Keshiks. Would just want to drop off the sheep where the guys are already collecting sheep. There's no need to make them walk to the sheep. Again, we got some idle TC time. Generally in this matchup, what we want to go for is Keshik Archer. You can always mix in some horsemen, but Keshik Archer is really better. Generally the English guy, I mean, you'll see some weird stuff, right? But generally the English guy is going to go longbow spear. Just keep watching your town center because you'll see it repeatedly idle. So what kind of the goal is, you went deer stones here, which is fine. A lot of the time I go silver tree, and I trade behind being aggressive as Mongol. Deer stones is fine. You can always throw up a market later and just build a few traders. But we want to be aggressive, keep the English player in their base, not allow them to get on the map for resources. While we are aggressive, we want to build up our eco behind that. So we do that with Keshiks and archers. And the overall strategy is your archers need to kill the English spearmen, your Keshiks clean the rest up. Okay, archers can also help kill the longbows when there's more left. So you kind of want to do this delicate dance back and forth of your Keshiks move in, his spears move in, you pull the Keshiks back, your archers shoot the spears. So, you know, I normally have my cavalry hotkey to control group 1, archers on 2, and that's how I manage both at the same time. So, as soon as we age up to feudal, we want to produce Keshiks. So, we run into a problem in this game where you just don't have food. You've only got 5 guys on food, I think. Which 4 is enough to continually produce villagers, so it's going to, we'll basically never produce a Keshik. So, you need to kind of think about, when I age up to feudal, what units do I want to make, and what resources do I need to gather? If you had built a Keshik when you aged up, he could already be down here raiding, stopping this outpost, attacking the berries, fighting the men-at-arms, and we kind of want to continually produce those Keshiks, because English can't build spearmen in Dark Age. And then once he starts going into spearmen, boom, you drop an archery range, you pump out archers, you kill the spearmen. If you don't have enough resources to constantly queue units in one production building, you don't need a second one of the same type. So you don't need 2 stables here. You don't have enough food to make 2 Keshiks, nor even 1 Keshik. So you could have dropped an archery range there. You get wheelbarrow, which is fine. Again, we just don't want to be 7 minutes into the game with 1 horseman or 2 horsemen. He's gonna catch you with your pants down, essentially. So I do think probably him attacking the Ovoo threw you off a bit, but you need to kind of adapt and adjust and say, hey, I can give the Ovoo up, I just need to get to feudal, then I can kill the men-at-arms. So our English guy, what does he want to do? He wants to sit in his base, eco up, wall off so you can't raid him, and then he wants to push straight up the gut and kill you, which is exactly what happens in this game. So again, we need to scout with the Khan and see what kind of units he's making. We can anticipate spearmen, but you can always confirm spearmen, and as soon as you see these spearmen, you need to start working on archery range and drop archers. Again, you've got the resources now to make Keshiks. I like that you moved out to the deer, so let's start pumping them out with the stables. I think the biggest problem in this game is lack of units from you. I'm in caster mode so that you can see that he's got 11 units and you have 2. So if he just came to your gold right now and camped it with longbows, you wouldn't be able to get gold. So we need to make Keshiks and archers. We've got a lot of stone piled up, so we could also move the archery range or just one of the stables over here and double produce a type of unit. Kind of a constant theme in this game is going to be, he does a good job of killing your Keshiks with spearmen. We need a mass of archers to take the spearmen out, so then the Keshiks can fight. The Keshiks will die very, very quickly to the spearmen, which is a really bad trade for you. Because a Keshik costs 120 food, 80 gold, spearmen 60 food, 20 wood. So he's gonna get really good trades in this game, killing Keshiks with spearmen. So if I were you, if I saw him building this many spearmen, I'd throw down a second archer range, start making more archers. You get a clean up here, but here comes the second wave, and we need to back out of that. So again, you got the resources to pump out units. I mean, at this point of the game, we need a blacksmith. If we got archers, we probably want to get +1 damage. We want to get +1 range defense for the Keshiks. And we just want to make more units. We've got a lot of production buildings that aren't making units. And that's what really hurts you here. So he's over here constantly making units. He's floating probably way more food than he needs to do, but he's might be getting in a position to go castle age. So he's going to push here, which is not a great fight for you, because at the front you've got 2 archers, 2 Keshiks, and a horseman. He's got 7 spearmen, 7 longbows. If you had been using the resources you needed here to make more Keshiks, let's say we have 7 or 8 Keshiks based off your floating resources, and if we were double producing archers over here, maybe we're at, or built a second archery range, maybe we're at like 10, 11, 12 archers. I think you can easily take this fight, but you just don't have the units right now. So if we see we're getting attacked, we need to pull the units from the back where we got guys spawning to help us out here. So again, take a pretty rough engagement here. So one of the reasons I'm in caster mode, army value and destroyed value is not always completely accurate, okay? So take it with a grain of salt, but we're going to look at your destroyed value in red versus how much destroyed value he has in yellow. So again, we have Cav dive into the spearmen here, which we want to avoid. So we want to constantly do what's called micro, but this dance of we never want cavalry engaging spearmen. Unless it's like 1 spearman against 3 Keshiks, right? Like you're going to kill the guy. But we want the archers to clear out the spearmen before, or 80-90% of the spearmen before our cavalry commit to the battle. We don't want to commit Keshiks to the battle until these spearmen have been cleared up. So we need more archers here, and we just need more units. Being kind of the key thing. Again, it's very possible if your front units and back units have been grouped up during that engagement, you could have won it more decisively, but you weren't able to do that. So one key thing I always talk about with age ups is you kind of want to have a clear plan of why are we aging up. So why are you aging up? Is it to, we only have 9 units. So are you going to pump out a bunch of men-at-arms, get veteran Keshiks, make a lot of veteran Keshiks? Like, what's the plan when you age up to then push and defeat the enemy? Are you going to build a prayer tent and start getting relics? That's a great reason to age up. Veterancy on the units, great reason to age up. I think you still could have thrown down a market in the corner back here and traded behind it. It's not like you have to constantly produce traders. You can make 5 traders, and that puts you in a good economic advantage against him. So we're going to see he goes castle as well. He's floating a lot of resources. And we want to make sure we get the step read out on the gold mine that we're not gathering from you. You got it. Of course, these dudes are going to have to long distance gather for a minute, but hopefully you move this. We want to see you get your veterancies. Oh, you're going to Siege Workshop. So you get veteran archers. Again, while we're aging up, you want to make sure you're making units. You don't want to get to this situation where you age up and your enemy says, "Oh, he just spent all his resources going to castle age. I'm gonna push in there and kill all of his villagers." That's what he's doing. So during that age up, you want to be producing archers, Keshiks. And if we're gonna make a lot of Keshiks, we need to get veterancy for the Keshiks. A couple other small things. I would actually say this is a very big thing, is we have a 1,000 unused stone, so we either need to place a gur over here and just start researching economic techs, or put a unit producer over there and start double producing units with stone. You can also get springalds towers. So we want to pull the villagers to the other side so they're not depositing at the normal gur. We want to use the step readout. So you go for springalds here, which we would have been much better served by a mangonel in this situation, because we know he has a lot of longbows. Until your enemy's making siege on the field, you don't need springalds, right? Like, if your enemy builds a mangonel, then you go, crap, I need a springled. But where we get to in this point in the game is you're on one town center. This is where we want to think about scaling. And if you scout your enemy, which I don't know if you have or not, you would see that he built the king's palace. And he has a town center, so he has 2 town centers. So he's going to make double the villagers than you. So if you stay on one town center and he stays on 2 town centers, at this point in the game he's going to beat you. He's got more economy and a bigger army. So you either need to be able to mass produce an army and kill him right now, or you need to be able to apply pressure and trade behind it to catch up in the economy count. So 1 town center and trade should beat 2 town center. I think the general hard part about this game is he's been constantly attacking you. You haven't been able to apply any pressure, which is like fantastic for the English guy, right? He can sit in his base. He can make farms. He's not going to lose villagers. He's going to go 2 TC a lot of the time and then just through Castle Age and Imperial Age and then kill you. A lot of walking distance from here to the town center. You just want to make sure you throw down a gur on your wood line every once in a while, or just move the gur that you have up here available. So for all of our units, we want to make sure we're getting upgrades. Very important. Where is your army? Very important that if we're building range units, we have +1 range damage. If we're building cavalry, Keshiks, men-at-arms, things like that, we want to have +1 range defense. So again, you have 2 springalds. Springalds not going to be able to do anything in this battle. If you were rolling up in this battle with 2 mangonels, you'd probably just delete this entire force. But I think, you know, as you play and you learn the game, you kind of learn what battles can you take, what can't you. This is a battle you can't take. You know, you have 11 archers, 9 crossbows. He's just got more guys than you can fight here. And we don't have what we call a front line. So he's got spears and men-at-arms. His ranged units can just tee off on you where everything's hitting your ranged units. So we need some sort of front line to protect our ranged units here, which ideally would be our Keshiks. Again, you've got the resources to make the units, right? It's just kind of putting that into practice. So now we queue up 5 horsemen, but we really needed those horsemen in the last fight, right? So you did it more of a reactionary of, crap, you know, I lost my army, now I need to make more guys. We just want to constantly add units to the army than having to do it later. So at this point in the game, the guy's got you beat. He's on 2 town centers, so he's got a bigger army, more economy, and he's walling off the map. So it's hard to play Mongol late because you have no walls. So we want to be aggressive and try to beat the enemy early, or at least in Castle Age, it's going to be hard to beat them later in the game. You did build a prayer tent, which I like. Just want to make sure that you build your shaman and you get out here and start grabbing the relics. He hasn't grabbed any of them, so I mean it's possible you could have grabbed a lot of these relics and had more gold. And we can see your food economy is kind of stalling out, so you might want to take some of the guys off gold, go eat some of this deer. You kind of want to constantly look at, hey, how much am I gathering of each resource? Do I need to pull some guys off one resource to go to another? Right here, I would say yes. You're floating a lot of gold. You need to move some guys from gold to food. So hopefully that helped. I mean, I really think key takeaways here are, especially in this matchup, are one, this isn't true every time, but generally we're going Keshik Archer against the Longbow Spear. We want our Mongol archers to kill the spears. We want our Keshiks to help us clean up any remaining spears or clean up the longbows. We ideally want to double produce Keshiks from the Ovoo. Your original Ovoo got burned down, which kind of sucks. It happens, but you still got a lot of gold to double produce Keshiks out here. Second key thing is we really want to try to keep the enemy in their base. So the Mongol economy can be very raidable at times. So we want to do as much as we can to kind of assert map control. And generally what I do is trade behind that. Now you don't have to do that. That's just how I like doing it. Even if you go deer stones, you can make a market. A lot of the time I go silver tree. Again, you don't have to constantly pump out traders, but adding in a trader every once in a while will help your eco out here. I think probably the biggest thing, which we talked about earlier, was destroyed value. So if we're going to fight, we want to make sure we have all of our units before we take it a direct engagement, like you did several times. And probably the biggest thing, I think, in your game is, and our opponent's doing it atrociously right now, right, with food, but is the floating of resources. So in a lot of those early matchups, if you had made the units with the resources that you had available, I do feel like you could have won some of those matchups, and maybe this game doesn't snowball the way it does with our opponent taking over. If you think about it like a graph, and your opponent and you both have, 15 units, and you lose 13 of your units, he loses 5. Well, now even if you're building military at the same rate, he's always going to have more military than you. So the early military engagements are important. You kind of want to make sure you've spent the resources to get the units out to win those. And then if you win those early engagements, you can get in here early and hit things like the gold, the berries that he was on, sneak around, put archers behind the wood line and shoot it. So you kind of always want to try to throw your opponent off their game plan, and especially as Mongol, you want to be aggressive on the map and attacking your opponent. And here, I feel like you were constantly on the back foot, right? Like the English guys constantly pushing into your base and attacking you. So hopefully those tips help. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, please let me know in the YouTube comments below. Thanks for watching.